This is Jalen, my legal warrior, and today we have Amy Hsiao, who is a estate planning attorney. Professionally, Amy Hsiao is your personal family lawyer for life. She helps protect your loved ones and assets from court. Personally, she is a mom to a toddler boy and is passionate about serving parents with minor children. During the COVID-19 lockdown, she is ever more committed to helping parents protect their loved ones and assets. She hosts a weekly live Facebook video every Thursday, Ask Mama Amy, where she addresses common questions for parents on how to keep their assets out of court. Hi, Amy. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Jalen, for having me here.
Yes, absolutely. I'm very excited to go through the topics that we outlined, for today. And the first question, what are the top 3 things that I need to know as a parent of a minor child? And how can I protect my young ones during COVID-19?
Absolutely. And so, as a mom of a toddler myself, this is always on top of my mind, right? So, and during this lockdown situation, what are the top 3 things to consider? The number one thing is, what if something happens to me? Like if I get sick, if I get sent into the hospital, then what happens to my son? Who takes care of him? So we absolutely want to make sure we have the legal documentation in place to name somebody who can become the guardian of our children and make that legal decision for us when we're not able to. And I'll share, and you absolutely want to document it. I'll share a story. For example, I have a sister and my sister-in-law, right? Now, if something happened to me and if the judge were to decide who to take care of my son, on paper, my sister-in-law looks, awesome, like perfect, has a stable job, married and just a stable family and everything is looks great on paper. My sister, on the other hand, is single and, teaches guitar and, just and does not just freelancing and so doesn't have kids of her own. And so if you were a judge, you may just give my sister-in-law the guardianship, whereas I feel way more connected and I feel my sister's philosophy in terms of parenting when it comes to educating my son is more in line with mine, right? Nothing wrong, nothing against the sister-in-law, but it's just a different philosophy, right? So that's just a little example of we absolutely want to document it and instead of leaving that to the judge. And I'm sure you have seen it on the other end of things when things go wrong. And now here, for what I do, like I prevent these things from happening by helping people to document them. So number one thing is to make sure if you're a parent of minor children like me, absolutely write down, and it doesn't take that much. And I am happy to help you with it, help all your colleagues and friends or with this, and I'll share some resources of how to get that done right now today at the end of our interview here. So that's number one thing. Number two, and along with the guardian nomination, in addition to just the long-term guardian that most people are familiar with, we also want to have a short-term guardian. For example, if I get sent to the hospital, in COVID-19, if I'm just in the hospital and so let's say like I'm in a hospital for 14 days or something, right? I'm going to be healed, but then I'm in the hospital. But if during this time, something happened to my son, then somebody at least needs to be able to make that temporary decision. Now, if you're with a spouse, if you have the significant other, maybe that person can make decisions for you if they are documented to be the specific of attorney. But if not, you want to absolutely, even if you're married, you still want to document it so that spouse has the specific power of attorney to make medical decisions for the child, to make financial decisions or legal decisions for the child. So we want to make sure the long term and the short term guardians are absolutely named. And on my website, and I can send you a few links here. On my website, there's actually on my homepage, I put together this report, the 6 common mistakes people make when naming guardians. So it lists out the top 6 mistakes that people make when we are, administering their estate or helping them with their families. And I'm here to help you avoid those mistakes. So feel free to go to my website. I'll send you the link and then click on it, and then you'll be able to download the report. And then when you, it'll take you to the free guardian nomination form as well.
Well, you also mentioned the 6 common mistakes. Would you be able to give our viewership just one?
In California, is we have the highest divorce rate here, right? And sometimes we are like when people married couple, they oftentimes name another married couple as the guardians for their children. They're friends with other married couples, right? But what if that married couple gets divorced or gets separated, right? Then what happens to that guardianship nomination? Right? So we want to make sure on the front end, at least on the nomination, we specify and say, okay, so those two, this couple only are able to be guardians if they're together, right? If they're separated, then maybe say if I'm friends with the mom, then I'd rather the mom be the guardian and not the dad, right? Or if one of them dies, for example, then I want the I don't if mom died, then I don't want the surviving spouse, the dad, to be the sole guardian. I'd rather go to the next nomination, which is my next couple friend, right? And so we want at least on the front end to document that clearly. So if it does go to court or whatnot, the court actually understands what the desires and wishes are.
Yeah, that actually reminds me of this one movie. I don't know if you've seen it, but I think her name is Katherine Heigl. I think she's in the movie, and her best friends, they ended up dying in a car accident of some sort, and they had, I think, 2 or 3 kids that they left behind. And the wife had a best friend, and the husband had a best friend, and they nominated those two together to be the I guess the successors of their estate and to take care of their children. And they were not a couple, but they were hoping that eventually these two individuals, these two best friends, would become a couple later on. And it was such a great movie. So it just reminds me of that whole entire thing, and I feel like our viewers should just watch that because I feel like it goes in line with what you're saying a little bit.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah, and that's a great example. I am so glad you mentioned it. And it also reminds me of another case that I had to deal with just recently. Oftentimes people think of a guardianship like a broad concept. They think once you're a guardian of somebody, then you take control of everything. The law is actually, there's a difference, right? Whether you're a guardian of the person or guardian of the estate, meaning the money, right? So we've had situations, there was a divorced couple, the mom was the default guardian, being the mom, right? The default guardian of the son, of the child. But by the law, she's only the guardian of the person. So she could take care, send the kid to school or whatnot, be with the child, provide, feed the child and stuff. But she's actually not the lead or the financial guardian of the child. So we ended up having to go to court again to appoint somebody, either the mom, it's still going on this case, as the legal and financial guardian to take care of the father who's divorced from the mom, the father's assets, so that it can go to the child. So there really is a difference. But I think most people just don't have that understanding. But I think, as attorneys, we're here to, that's why I guide people. Okay, so you got to make sure you write it down and make sure you understand what you're doing.
Yeah, I can't wait to share the 6 common mistakes because that first one was a great one.
Totally awesome. So yeah. So I'll share the link down below, and it's on my homepage. So if you just go to my homepage on the right, then there's the 6 common mistakes.
Fantastic. Now I know that you have one more thing that a parent should know about their minor children, how they can protect them during COVID-19, because you mentioned the guardianship nomination, the 6 common mistakes, and I believe there's one more.
Yeah, so the other thing that's really easy to do right now during the lockdown is the healthcare directive. And I also have the resources on my homepage for people to just download it and then fill it out on their own. So this healthcare directive, you want to be able to, like, so if I am in the hospital, then, and if I'm in, I can't talk, like I'm on a ventilator or something, I can't really be saying anything. Who can make the healthcare decisions for me, right? Would it be my significant other? Would it be my, maybe sister or my parents or whoever? Who do I want to be able to make that medical decision for me so I can be saved, I can be healed um, when my guardian is taking care of my child. So healthcare directive is so important during this time, and there are specific languages that I want, I always add into my, clients' customized healthcare language specifically. And I'll just give you two examples. First of all, we want to make sure, number one, that it allows for virtual communication, right? Because we're all in lockdown. You can't physically be in the hospital to talk to the doctors. So you want to allow the authority to call them on the phone or, talk via a Zoom meeting of some sort. So you want to specifically allow that. And the reason why we want to specifically allow that is because under the law, like if anything is not specifically written, if it's not expressly written, then it's as if it's not there. And if I have terminal illness, then I do not want to unnecessarily sustain my life because I don't want to be in vegetative state and become a burden for my family, financially and physically, right? But now during COVID-19, you actually do want to be on a ventilator, right? You actually do want to be
Right.
sustaining life. So you want to make sure, we want to make sure to make that distinction in there to allow for that. And so those are just two examples that I always customize and make sure is included on the health interactive. And that's something super easy to do. You can absolutely do it yourself. And I have a healthcare webinar that I host. It's like a 1-hour webinar on my website. If people are interested, once you download the form on my homepage, if you still have questions, feel free to just watch the webinar. I have like step-by-step guidance on how to fill it out.
Okay, fantastic. I love that you have all of these resources on your website for our viewership and just for the public in generally. And I'm sure that you get plenty of questions after they see these forms and they're like, okay, well, am I filling this out correctly?
I made the webinar just to make it easier for people, and they can just watch it at the comfort of their home.
Yeah.
Since March, the CDC has issued some new orders. They're allowing the hospitals to, prepare these forms, and the patients could sign, and the patients could actually sign these healthcare directives when they go into the hospital. Now, my take as an attorney is, instead of waiting until when you go to the hospital and the hospital shoves all these documents that you don't even have time to read and just signing over everything quickly, you'd much rather do it when you have the time and leisure to think through it and ask questions and make sure that the form is really true to your own desires versus having an institution push the document on you.
Well, what is the most important thing that people need to know about their assets right now?
Yeah, so regardless of whether you have done your estate planning or not, the single most important thing is having an asset inventory, right? And so I've seen so many estate plans. I mean, you can easily get an estate plan on LegalZoom, right? Like anybody can do an estate plan, but is that plan going to work? Most of the time, it's not. And the reason is because just think of the estate plan like a treasure box, right? When you create a treasure box, if you don't put any treasures in it, then the treasure box is empty. So when the beneficiaries go and open the treasure box doesn't have anything. An inventory that lists all your personal assets and where they are, how it's titled. So if something were to happen to you, then the beneficiary can go and have a very clear idea of where things are. Because if not, then things go to the government. Right now in California, California is sitting on about $9.3 million of estate right now. So that's how much, because when mom and dad died, the children don't know what mom and dad had.
Right.
And so those assets, those bank accounts get frozen and they get sent to the state of California. And what a pity, because all the hard, all the life of hard work is, you know, is gone.
So how can we stay connected with you? How can our viewership connect with you if they need any sort of help?
My website and sign up for the healthcare directive if you want that, or the guardianship, and then you can also schedule a family wealth planning session with me. Now, in that session, normally I do charge a $750, a 2-hour consultation fee for that session, but because of you and for your viewership, we are now giving it complimentary. And so the value that people can get from this 2-hour consultation are twofold, right? Number one is it's a 2-hour working meeting where we actually sit down and go through each and every of their assets. Remember, we mentioned you want to have your personal resource map, your personal inventory. So this is exactly what we do in the family wealth planning session. We help you come up with your own personal asset, personal inventory, and then I'll guide you through, okay, what's going to happen with this particular asset. So you'll get a reality check of what would happen to these assets, what would happen to your children if something were to happen to you. And then from there, then we can decide, okay, is there maybe a hole between what you thought would happen versus the reality, right? And then people would be able to walk away, if they have minor children, they'll be able to walk away with a guardian nomination that's properly executed, right? And then also a healthcare directive, that's normally charged at all of these valuable resources only for you and your audience.
Thank you so much. I'm very, very excited to share this with our viewership, and it's definitely invaluable, and it's definitely a great start for them to, like you said, kind of fact finding, I guess is the way that I see it. It's fact
Yeah.
finding all your facts, all your assets in a treasure box. I absolutely love that you coined it that way. So very nice. Makes the clients, at least in my opinion, makes the clients feel very special, and that their assets are special, and it shows that you obviously care for them. So thank you so much, Amy. I definitely appreciate your time and also being here with us and sharing all this invaluable information with our viewership and warriors. If you need to get a hold of Amy Hsiao, I will certainly provide the link. All right. Thank you, warriors. And thank you, Amy, for joining us today.
Thank you, Jalen. Bye-bye.